Happy Friday, Stitchers. Happy Friday, Floss Tube. Oh, it is so nice to sit down and get this project started. My name's Caroline. Thanks for joining me today. This is, as you can see, a Stitch With Me video, and I'm starting a new project today. This is a design by Michelle Garrett of Bendy Stitchy, and the pattern is called Literary Alice. And at the moment, this pattern is exclusive to the kit that I'm selling in the shop. I've got a few kits left, a few bags left. This is an Alice in Wonderland collection, and Michelle designed the pattern to go along with a bag set that I've done. And I am currently working very hard on getting those bags completed so that I can send them out. And I thought today for my Stitch With Me video is a perfect opportunity to start the project. And I'm not using the grime guard or the bag that go along with the kit because well, it's more important for me to get them out to you first than to have my own to use. So this was a different grime guard that I made before, and just an old project bag that I had, and actually an extra notions pouch from the holiday collection. So it's a bit of a mishmash that I've got together today, but it works. So that's all good. So yes, Literary Alice, and I will have inserted a picture of that pattern at the beginning for you to see. And I am stitching this on the called for fabric for Michelle's pattern. She sent me a piece of it. I'm going to show you the information on the pattern here. So this is 18 count Ada in River Rock from Color and Cotton. So that's what I'm currently working on. And I am using 2 strands of thread, the DMCs. I've made at least one substitution on the thread list. I know I'm also going to be changing. I didn't have 3821 in my stash, so I'm using a different color for her hair, and maybe 1 or 2 other substitutions. I can't remember. I think I've got 3 substitutions total. But again, I've only put down the ones that I've gotten ready in my floss card. So the way that I use this, it's very simple. This pattern uses 10 colors, and so I simply start at the far left and going clockwise. It's not hard to keep track of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so on and so forth. And then I just correspond that with the list of threads. So white is number 1, and it's in hole number 1. So it's quite simple. And that way I can pre-cut my lengths of floss to the length that I like to use to stitch. And then I can put the bobbin of floss back in my my full collection of bobbins. Now I had a few flosses that were not in my bobbin storage box, so I've actually got those waiting in here. This one, this is the one I'm using for Alice's hair, 833, and I'm actually going to leave this one on the bobbin because this one came from my friend Audrey. And when she passed away, I received a bag full of her flosses and her bobbins. And so for my own sentimental reasons, I'm going to leave her thread on the bobbin and just keep that in my thing. Actually, I fibbed. There's 2 of them. The one that I'm going to use for Alice's face, 948. This one also was one of Audrey's. So those 2 bobbins I'm going to keep as Audrey left them. And then these ones, I'll just show you. So 21, I think, which one did I'm substituting 21 for 3712. So 3712 is supposed to be a salmon, a medium dark salmon, and that is 2, 3, 4, 5. It's color number 6. So I'll just quickly show you how I've been loading it. It's because it's quite simple, and this way I can keep the rest of the skein until I'm ready to load it onto a bobbin. So I just take from the end and I pull 1, 2 lengths. That's usually the length that I like to stitch. And since I'm loading up my floss card, I'm going to have 2 lengths ready to go. So 1, 2, done. Then my floss, my skein is still intact, and then I can tuck that back in my drawer of floss that needs to be bobbinated. So I'm just going to put those lengths together. What did I say? Number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 needs to go right there. And so then I know that that's where that one belongs. And then easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So that's how I use a floss card like this. Very simple to keep track of, and then everything is cut to size, all in one place. You'd think it gets tangled, but you know, if you just, when I put it away, I simply do that, tuck it in the notions pouch, and then that goes inside my project bag. It's very, very simple, straightforward. I had a lot of people ask me how I use these things because it's not, you know, it's not super apparent when you first get it. It doesn't have instructions come with it or anything. So it's not a silly question to ask how these things work. So that's just how I use it. You know, there's no real right or wrong way. So anyway, that's that. At the moment, I have white on the needle, and right now I'm stitching Alice's her apron, her pinafore. So that's where I'm at right now. 2 strands of floss on 18 count Aida is so, for this kind of design, it's my favorite because the coverage is just nice and plump, and it just looks really, really nice. Oh, I guess I should check the other side of the pattern. There we go. So now we're gonna come up here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So for me, it is just Friday lunchtime. I think it's around noon. And I've had a full morning. I was sewing some notion pouches this morning. And believe it or not, John has offered to help me. He's got a little bit of free time this weekend, so he has offered to help me a little bit to get the kit out, to help me with some elements of the kit. So this morning, I showed him how to make the zipper pulls. So all of the zipper pulls that are coming along with the Alice collection, and they are these really, really fun clock charms. They will all have been made by John. I think he thinks he's pretty clever. And he's doing a great job. And then he's going to help me with the packaging and postage as well. That's always a surprisingly big job, the packaging and postage. It always takes longer than you think it's going to take. And when you'd really rather just be getting back to the sewing, it can eat up a fair bit of time. So having him offer to help me with that, I thought was quite nice. So I guess I'm going to have to make him a nice dinner or something. We are going to be celebrating Valentine's Day a little bit earlier this February because he has decided to go over the ice to the cottage next weekend. For those of you who are newer around here and maybe don't know this, the reason the channel is called Off the Grid Needlearts is because in the summer, I pack myself up and I move to the cottage for the summer, which is on a small island in Georgian Bay, Ontario, Canada. And I live there in the summer with the kids. Now my daughter is now older and she works in the summer now, so she hasn't been there for the full summer for many years now. Well, a few years. But Nicholas is still, my son is still young enough, and he will stay up there with me for the summer. I think I need one more. Let's double check this. Is that 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. 7. There we go. And we use propane and solar and a generator. So I have done videos from the cottage for the last couple of years. In fact, my very, very first video when I started this channel, I was up at the cottage, and you can find all those videos. I think I created a playlist for the cottage videos the last couple of years. I can't remember if I separated. Last summer was, I spent most of my summer last summer here because my retriever, Daria, at the time, she had bone cancer and she was unable to go. She couldn't travel. And so I stayed at home with her last summer, and we spent her last bit of time together here at the house. So, yeah, so he's going up next weekend. The satellite for the ice looks good. It's covered. He has checked with our sort of First Nations expert who lives up there and who is our go-to person to ask when we need to know certain things that are happening up and around there. John messaged him and asked whether he thought it was safe, and he's been out. And, he does some work in the, so this gentleman's name is Chico, and Chico goes around in the winter and he checks on many of the cottages that are up there, keeps an eye on them, and offers that service to many of the people who live up there and who can't be up there in the winter. And just a generally all-around smart fella, and so he knows the ice conditions really well, and says that we're good to go. Now, not me. I'm not a fan of going over the ice. So John and Nicholas will be going up next weekend, and I've asked him to take some videos so that I can share it. Pretty sure I shared the video last year as well. Now, I'm going to have to double check I'm doing the right thing here. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Pretty sure. We'll carry on. So yeah, we're going to go out for a pub dinner tomorrow night, just the two of us, to celebrate Valentine's Day, which I'm looking forward to. So, something a little interesting to talk to you about today. I threw out a bit of a poll question on the Facebook group this morning because John and I have been talking about an idea for a little while, and I thought it was time to maybe get some feedback from you about whether this is something that would be feasible. And that idea is that I'd like to put together a Canadian stitching retreat. A big one. So I think I'm excited. I'm really, really excited. Now, why does it look like I'm in the wrong spot here? 1, 2, 3. That's correct. And then we want 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 3. Okay, so I need one more here. So this is very, very much just sort of putting out some feelers. Nothing is set in stone. These are just, first kind of thoughts and ideas, but tentatively thinking of the last weekend in September this year. So I know this doesn't give a huge amount of time for those who would need, who would be coming from out of country to budget and plan. So I know, I am well aware that this feels a little bit like last minute, but I think if we can put together something for this year, I would love to see this become a yearly thing for, to celebrate a big retreat in Canada, because there are lots of big retreats down in the States, but we don't really have anything that's kind of that similar style here in Canada. And I know that we've done, I love my little Elmhurst retreat that is like 20 people. So this would be something a little bit different for me. And John's like, we should put it together and be a lot of fun, and you get to meet a lot of new people. And so I said, okay, well, if you're going to help me organize it. And he said, yeah, I'll help you organize it and be a lot of fun. And I thought, okay, if John's on board, then what have I got to lose? So I don't know. Let me know what you think. This would be, again, like I said, tentatively the last weekend in September, and we would have to find a location that would be, I was thinking of either in Toronto or near Toronto, Ontario, Canada, so that it would be fairly close to the airport, and not too difficult for people to get to from the airport. And then maybe we could either, have some pop-up shops. There is a local needlework shop very close to Toronto, about 20 minutes away. That's called Gita's, and is apparently a very nice shop. I've actually, believe it or not, I've never been there. Ellen and I were supposed to go there back in November or December. I can't even remember, because I bailed on her twice. I think what happened? I got sick the one time, or the weather. I know it was the weather the one time that I was set to go. And so I still haven't made it to Gita's, but there, I'm sure, we'd have to figure out some way to include some form of trip either there, or possibly have a little shop set up at the location. Oh, I just split that. I'm going to have to back that up a bit. See, I'm super excited about possible retreat here that I'm not paying attention. There we go. Okay, let's fix that. There. So what do you think? Do you think that it's maybe something that you might consider attending? I'm trying to get an idea of numbers of people who would definitely come. And then I think we would go from there. We would then find a location with a general number in mind, and then try to book the spot and then open it up. So this is the kind of thing that would have to, probably try to put together in the next couple of weeks, so that it would allow people enough time to, to get on to book a spot. So that's why I'm asking these questions now, sort of to get an idea whether this is something that's feasible or not. Because, obviously it would take a lot of work to organize and put together. And I would love to do it. I would really love to do it. So I'm kind of putting this out there so that I can get an idea of whether or not there are enough people who would be interested in me putting something like this together. So, so we could have a big Canadian retreat, which I think would be pretty amazing. Yeah, so I'm thinking 100 people, 150 people. I don't know. I honestly don't know. So if you could leave me a comment below, if you are like, yes, I'm there. End of September, let's do it. With the thought being that this is still, tentative. And then I would hope to, by next week, have some more firm information on this as to whether or not I think that we can actually make a go of this. So what do you think? What do you think? I am going to, got a needle minder here. I like to, I stitch in the, now there's two ways to say this. You can say stitch in the ditch or stitch in the well. And what that means is basically that you can see how my fabric is on the inside of the Q-snap, and the back of my Q-snap, the fabric is flat. So I'm stitching in the ditch, in the well. I do this for a couple of different reasons. First being that it keeps the top of your stitching area clean, a little bit cleaner, because you're not touching it a lot with your hands. You're more touching the back. But also, again, I'm using a grime guard. So, but also it makes it a lot easier to sew in your ends from the back, because you can get right up to the edges of your Q-snap without having to try and fight the needle on the inside there. So that's why I do that. Where was I going with that? What was I telling you that? I can't remember. Anyways, maybe it'll come to me in a bit. So, can you hear Luna snoring? Now she's going to be quiet. She's such a funny girl. John is taking her with him next weekend. Oh, it was my needle minder. That's right. See, I told you it would come to me. Okay, so because I stitch in the well, I usually put the pretty part of my needle minder on the back, where it's a bit more, where it's flat. And then I put the magnet on the stitching area, because that way if I know that I'm going to be working on this and I'll just stick it back in my project bag with the needle minder still on it, I don't have to worry about the needles coming off, because they're sort of protected down inside the project. And I always like using this part of the needle minder. Just a personal preference. I prefer it to using this part of it on a Q-snap. When I'm on my stitching frame, I like to use the pretty part. But on a Q-snap, I just find that I just prefer to use the actual magnet itself. I find it's a little more secure, and I'm not going to be always worried about losing my needle, because knowing me, you see how there's 3 needles there? That's not unusual. So I have very little chance of losing my needles if I keep them on the inside there. That's where I was going with that. Okay, so now she's got a little black bow in the middle. So now that I've done that, I like to do the white first and then the black, because I find that if I do my white stitching after, as I pull the white thread through, it sometimes can pull a few of the fibers of the dark floss through with it, which it's very picky, but I like my white to look as clean as possible. So I will generally do the white first, and then if there's some darker colors in there, then I'll do those afterwards. So let's put in her bow. Now you can remove the floss and leave the rest of it in the thing, but I'm just going to take out a length. I'm just taking out one length of floss and doubling it, because when I'm stitching 2 threads on DMC, that's just my preferred way to do it. So I'll just take out one strand of DMC, and then I just thread one end in, and I trap my needle in the middle. Just my preferred way of doing it, because then I can use right down to the end of the floss. Oops, I always do that. Don't you hate that when it sort of does a figure 8 and then it traps? There, that's better. There we go. Okay, so when I attach a new thread, I like to do something called a bargello tuck. And all that is it's just a fancy way of saying that I start by attaching, I sew through a few stitches of my old stitching, and I bring this through until it's until it is completely hidden, like that. And then I take my needle and I just do one more little tack at the end of where that is. And if I pull that through, it's super secure. And also, if you'll see, it's pretty neat and tidy. And I find that's just a really nice way to keep my back. Oops, sorry about that. Just a really nice way to keep my back of the project neat and tidy. So here we go. Look at this. We'll start filling in that pretty bow that she has. Here we go. I have my frame a little further away from my face than I normally do when I'm stitching this count. So I'm a little slower with finding the holes. I'm also stitching upstairs because John is downstairs, and it's always a little bit nicer to chat to you when I feel like someone isn't listening. So when I work on this downstairs, I'll stick it on my Lowry frame so that I can stitch two-handed. I can't stitch in hand like this for too long because it really starts to bother my thumb right there. So this is about, I might be good for another 5 minutes or so, and then that'll be it. So yeah, now the white stitches look crisp and the black just sits in there really nicely. Neat and tidy. And if I flip it out, I tend to keep a finger on the back, feeling for knots. And if I feel that I've got a knot in there, I will try to fix it immediately so that it doesn't create a huge lump, and keeps the back of my fabric as flat as possible, because it makes finishing your work a little bit easier. Isn't that pretty fabric? Boy, that's pretty. Look at the color on that. So that's color and cotton. I think I'm going to don't mind it's a slightly dusty needle minder. I think it's been sitting on my table there for a few weeks and it's a little bit dusty. But anyways, I think I might have to place an order with Angela, but I may have just placed an order for fabric from XJU Designs who is Judith in Hungary. And so I don't have fabric budget left for the month of February. So I may have to wait a little bit. But I think the next time I order some fabric to try, I'm going to order some from Color and Cotton, because I'm super impressed. Actually, this is the first time I'm trying her fabric. I've used her thread before, lots. I love her thread. It's beautiful. But her fabric, this is really beautiful. I'm quite impressed. So I think I'll have to order some. Her name is Angela, right? Is that right? Angela from Color and Cotton? Anyways, she's a talented lady. I'll say that. This is really pretty. Yeah, isn't that pretty? Oh, I'm liking this so much. Oh, big stretch from Luna. Big stretch. She is snoozing away. I mentioned John's taking her with him next weekend, and there was a lot of discussion about this in our family. I'll tell you that. Law was losing sleep over it because I was very, very nervous about him taking her for a few reasons. First of all, of course, being that she's never been tested off leash, and I was worried that she would run away because she has a very, very high prey drive, and she's super, keen on scents that are outside and following those scents. So she's never been tested off leash, and when he's going over the ice, his number one concern has to be safety and Nicholas and himself, getting them safely over to the cottage. And I did not want him to have to worry about the dog disappearing, and then he has to try and find the dog and Nicholas, and it was just a nightmare that I thought I can't. I had to say something, and so I told him my concerns and that I thought maybe he should rethink his plan, and even though he was excited, that maybe he had to rethink it. So he listened to my concerns and came home after work yesterday, and he said, I think I've got an idea to try, and if it works, then it will put all of our minds at ease. So what he did was he packed up Luna in the car and he drove her, because you see, the other problem is that Luna is not good with other dogs, like really not good with other dogs. And so we've never been able to take her to a dog park because it would be dangerous. So we just don't do it. So he drove up to a drive-in movie theater that's about 45 minutes north of here in the country. And of course it's the middle of winter, so the drive-in is closed and there's no one around. And so he was able to go up there, and he knew there would be no one around. He knew it would be a wide open space, and he let her off lead. He let her off leash, and he said, this is the perfect opportunity to try it. He had a bucket full of liver treats in his pocket, which are her favorite. And he tested her. And I'm going to insert a little video at the very end of this Stitch with Me, because I think that you'll see she was a champ. She was a champ. She did beautifully. He said that she obeyed him even better than when she's actually on the lead, and she had a blast. She had a blast. And so she's going to be good to go. She can go. That means that he can safely take her to the cottage, and she is going to have an amazing time. So I think he's like a little kid. He's so excited about going. It's really sweet. Not me. I'm going to be here in my house with my sewing and my stitching. I would really like to have all of the Alice collection sets out by February the 16th. That is my goal, to have them all packaged, postage paid, and in the post, off to their final homes by February 16th. That's what I'm working towards. So I have sent out all of the PDFs now. If you have not received your Alice PDF from me and you purchased a kit, check your spam folder first. I send those emails out personally, so you're looking for an email from me, Caroline, not from Evertote. They do not come through Shopify because I take your email that comes in with the order, and then I send you the pattern with a little note from me. And I hope that if you have a PDF of Michelle's pattern, maybe you'll start it with me as well this weekend. And don't forget to tag me on Facebook or Instagram with your progress, because I'd love to see yours too. One more thing. If there is a Kim Young watching this, there was no email address on your order. So I haven't been able to send you your copy yet. So if you happen to hear this, I can't figure out how else to contact you because other than mailing you your kit. So if I haven't heard from you by the time I'm ready to mail you out your kit, I will simply print out a copy of the pattern and include it in with the bag. Oh, isn't that cute? That is just so cute. I love that. So that's her little bow. It's done. All right, and to end my thread, I just do the exact opposite of how I started it. Oh, Luna. Snore, snore. Okay, so we put that in like that. And it's nice and secure because there's quite a lot of stitching there that I was able to sew it through. And then I hold it away so that the thread is taut. And then I snip. I'm careful to snip close. And we're done. And so that's the back. Neat and tidy. And there's my front. Looking good. Oh, Michelle, thanks for a great pattern. And I really hope that if you are starting Alice as well, I can't wait to see yours. And that's it for me today. I better get this video up and uploaded so that I can edit it and get it onto YouTube so that it's ready for 6 o'clock tonight for Friday Off the Grid stitching time, stitching party. Friday Off the Grid, my party pants will be on at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. We try to stitch for 6 hours and post befores and afters. If you feel like it, you're more than welcome just to lurk and just enjoy everybody else's pictures of their wonderful stitching. We do keep the group, it's the Friday Off the Grid group on Facebook. I try really hard to keep it 95, 99% just stitching. So if it's not a picture of your stitching, you can save those kinds of things to post elsewhere so that we can just try to keep the group. We have about 4,800 members on that group now. So as you can imagine, it's a big group of people. And it's just supposed to be, 5 minutes of bliss of scrolling through beautiful stitching, sharing and encouraging. And just a reminder that we just try to keep the posts about stitching and also being nice. And that's it. So my party pants will be on at 6 o'clock. I think I've just got a salad planned. We're just going to make salad with some cooked chicken on top for dinner, which is my favorite kind of dinner, just simple and healthy. And then I will make coffee. I said this the other day on the group, and I think I made some people laugh. I like to have more than one drink at a time. I like to have a hot drink and a cold drink, and I start with the hot drink, and then I go to the cold drink. And then usually it's time to take a bathroom break and rinse and repeat. And there's my evening. That way I make sure that I get up and stretch too. So it's all good. Anyways, let me know in the comments below if you think it would be highly likely that you would love to come to a stitching retreat in or near, very near Toronto, Ontario, Canada at the end of September 2020. And if we can make this work this year, I would love to make this a once yearly thing. In addition to the 3 Elmhurst retreats that happen in Ingersoll, Ontario, but the numbers there are about 20 people. So this would be a much, much larger Canadian retreat. So let me know in the comments below and we'll see what we can do. And I'll have more information on Monday or possibly next Friday, depending on what I can put together. Okay, and that's it for me. I really better go now. And I will see you on Monday for Monday Floss Tube. Take care, have a great weekend, and happy stitching.